Penguin Random House Audio presents As Chimney Sweepers Come to Dust, a Flavia de Luce novel by Alan Bradley, read for you by Jayne Entwistle. Fear no more the heat o' the sun, nor the furious winter's rages. Though thy worldly task hast done, home art gone, and ta'en thy wages. Golden lads and girls all must, as chimney sweepers, come to dust. William Shakespeare, Cymbeline, Act 4, Scene 2. Prologue. If you're anything like me, you adore rot. It is pleasant to reflect on the fact that decay and decomposition are what make the world go round. For instance, when an ancient oak falls somewhere in the forest, it begins almost at once to be consumed by invisible predators. These highly specialized hordes of bacteria lay siege to their target as methodically as an army of barbarians attacking an enemy fortress. The mission of the first wave is to break down the protein forms of the stricken timber into ammonia, which can then be easily handled by the second team, which converts the smelly ammonia to nitrites. These last and final invaders, by oxidation, convert the nitrites into the nitrates that are required to fertilize the soil and thus to grow new seedling oaks. Through the miracle of chemistry, a colossus has been reduced to its essentials by microscopic life forms. Forests are born and die, come and go, like a spinning penny flipped into the air. Heads, tails, life, death, life, death, and so on from creation to the farthest ends of time. It's bloody marvellous if you ask me. Left to the mercies of the soil, dead human bodies undergo the same basic 1-2-3 process. Meat, ammonia, nitrates. But when a corpse is swaddled tightly in a soiled flag, stuffed up a brick chimney, and left there for a donkey's age to char and mummify in the heat and the smoke, well, that's an entirely different story. Chapter 1. Banished, the wild wind shrieked as it tore at my face. Banished, the savage waves roared as they drenched me with freezing water. Banished, they howled. Banished! There is no sadder word in the English language. The very sound of it, like echoing iron gates crashing closed behind you, like steel bolts being shot shut, makes your hair stand on end, doesn't it? Banished! I shouted the word into the tearing wind, and the wind spat it back into my face. Banished! I was standing at the heaving prow of the RMS Scythia, my jaws wide open to the gale, hoping that the salt spray would wash the bad taste out of my mouth. The taste that was my life so far. Somewhere, 1,000 miles behind us, over the eastern horizon, lay the village of Bishop's Lacey and Buckshaw, my former home, where my father, Colonel Violet de Luce, and my sisters, Ophelia and Daphne, were most likely, at this very moment, getting on nicely with their lives as if I had never existed. They had already forgotten me, I was sure of it. Only the faithful family retainers, Dogger and Mrs. Mullet, would have shed a furtive tear at my departure. But even so, they too, in time, would have only foggy memories of Flavia. Out here on the wild Atlantic, the Scythia's bow was hauling itself up, and up, and up, out of the sea, climbing sickeningly toward the sky, then crashing down with a horrendous hollow booming, throwing out great white wings of water to port and starboard. It was like riding bareback on an enormous steel angel doing the breaststroke. Although it was still early September, the sea was madness. We had encountered the remnants of a tropical hurricane, and now, for more than 2 days, had been tossed about like a cast-off cork. Everyone, except the captain and I, or so it seemed, had dragged themselves off to their bunks, so that the only sounds to be heard, as one reeled along the pitching, rolling corridors to dinner, were the groan of stressed steel, and behind closed doors on either side, the evacuation of scores of stomachs. With nearly 900 passengers on board, it was a sobering sound. As for me, I seemed to be blessed with a natural immunity to the tossing seas, the result, I supposed, of seafaring ancestors such as Thaddeus de Luce, who, although only a lad at the Battle of Trafalgar, was said to have brought lemonade to the dying Admiral Nelson, and to have held his cold and clammy hand. Nelson's last words, actually, were not the widely reported, "Kiss me, Hardy," addressed to Captain Thomas Hardy of the Victory, but rather, "Drink, drink, fan, fan, rub, rub," whispered feverishly to the wide-eyed young Thaddeus, who, although reduced to tears at the sight of his mortally wounded hero, was doing his best to keep the great man's circulation from crystallizing. The wind ripped at my hair and tore at my thin autumn coat. I inhaled the salt air as deeply as I dared, the sea spray running in torrents down my face. A hand seized my arm roughly. "What the devil do you think you're doing?" I spun round, startled, trying to wriggle free. It was, of course, Ryerson Rainsmith. "What the devil do you think you're doing?" he repeated. He was one of those people who thought that the secret of gaining the upper hand was to ask every question twice. The best way of dealing with them is not to answer. "I've been looking everywhere for you. Dorsey is beside herself with worry." "Does that mean there are now 2 of her to put up with?" I wanted to ask, but I didn't. With a name like Dorsey, it was no wonder he called her Dodo, or at least he did whenever he thought they were alone. "We were afraid you'd fallen overboard. Now, come below at once. Go to your cabin and put on some dry clothing. You look like a drowned rat." That did it. It was the last straw. "Ryerson Rainsmith," I thought, "your days, your very hours, are numbered." I would go to the young and handsome ship's doctor, whom I had met at supper the night before last. On the pretext of an upset tummy, I would beg a bottle of sodium bicarbonate, a healthy dose of the stuff. I smiled at the word healthy. Slipped into Rainsmith's invariable bottle of champagne would do the trick. Taken on a full stomach, no worries about that where Ryerson Rainsmith was concerned, sodium bicarbonate combined with effervescent alcohol could be deadly. First, the headache, which seemed to grow by the minute, followed by mental confusion and severe stomach pain. Then the muscle weakness, the thin stools like coffee grounds, the tremors, the twitching, all the classic symptoms of alkalosis. I would insist on taking him out on deck for a healthy walk. Forcing him to hyperventilate in all this fresh, invigorating air would speed up the process, like sloshing petrol onto a fire. If I could manage to raise the pH of his arterial blood to 7.65, he wouldn't stand the chance of a snowman in Hades. He would die in agony. "I'm coming," I said sullenly, and followed him at the speed of a sleepy snail, aft across the rolling, pitching foredeck. Hard to imagine, I thought, that I had actually been handed over to this rancid slab of humanity. Hard to forget, though, how it had come about. It had all begun with that awful business about my mother, Harriet. After 10 years of being missing in the mountains of Tibet, Harriet had returned to Buckshore, in circumstances so painful that my brain was still forbidding me to think about them for more than a few seconds at a time. Any longer than that, and my internal censor snipped my...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?